All right, folks, happy Wednesday afternoon. Hope you're doing well. At least afternoon for some of us. How's everyone doing today? All right, well, so today we'll kind of do our normal. We'll go through and review kind of my overall thoughts, what I'm seeing. We'll take a look at some potential opportunities, and then I'll open it up to anything you want me to look at for you, okay? Excellent, excellent. Okay, so with that, I'll get right into it today. I'm going to try to be about 30 minutes today. So the indexes, let's start with the S&P. So when we talked last week, we were confused, right? At least I was confused because we had a lot of mixed signals. We know seasonality typically has lower, and we end up having a nice move down to that 50 period moving average here, okay? And it's been respecting that, right? And so to me, it looked like, okay, we rebound, and now coming in Wednesday, we're going to go higher, right? And nope, it comes right back down. So we're really kind of caught in some consolidation right now. And if you're saying this line, so this is just a 50 period and this is a 20, okay? I go between the moving averages and the Bollinger Bands, just depending on how I'm looking at things there, either or. It just kind of shows you direction. But, so today, even though price is down as of right now, the Hakanachi is kind of an undecided red, right? So like a little wick here. And so, I think we might get caught in some consolidation here at this point. Or we could test these levels again before we head higher. But, I think between the last time we talked last Wednesday and today, I think I've had one new trade. It was I think the alert system, I had only one new trade. Okay, which is a crypto trade or a blockchain type trade. So only because we're getting back and forth, I'm pretty patient on stuff like that. Okay, because we're going to have some phenomenal opportunities coming up here. Let's look at the Nasdaq. It's usually been stronger or weaker, right, when it makes its move. So you can see here it's trying to test these levels. But again, it's just one of those things where there's been a lot of support here. I mean, look at all that. Wick. A lot of support here. And we'll see now if it finally breaks through over the next week or so before we head higher, or is it going to respect this levels and goes higher? Okay, so I'm not really sure yet. Sentiment is still relatively undecided on which way the market wants to go. And I do think if it breaks these levels though and closes below this wick, we could see some more downward action before it reverses. Okay. The Dow, again, very, very crazy situation lately, right? We've had this happen quite a bit. The Nasdaq and the S&P are down. The Dow is up. Okay. The movement hasn't been obviously as sporadic on the Dow. So that tells you people are pouring money into the Dow versus they're getting out of the Nasdaq right now a little bit. Okay, so all that really means big picture is we got some indecision right now, just like we did last week. And it doesn't mean you can't make money on it, but it means that nothing should surprise you with getting some back and forth movement right now. Okay, it certainly did look like to me going back to the Nasdaq, back yesterday when we closed, even though we closed down, we had a nice pretty solid green Hakanachi, right? But then today it came down, right? And there's some news that came out, but there's always news, there's always news, something going on in the news. So, all right, crude oil. Again, right, we basically have been respecting this 20 period. That's a very, very strong market, respecting that 20 period. It touched it today and went higher. I got an interesting email, and I haven't done this in a while, but it made me start thinking about it again. He said, Keith, do you ever, when you see it respecting a level like that, do you ever put a limit order out there hoping it comes and touches it and then heads higher? Okay. I quit doing that in the past just because I feel like you're catching a falling knife at times, but as long as you have a stop loss that is engaged immediately, you can do things like that. But I prefer to wait, so again, for me, this is still a red Hockenacci today, so I'm not looking to enter this anyway at this point. But it's a strong market. Crude's going to head higher. It's just a matter of catching it. So how can you do that? Well, again, to me, the easier way is the 4-hour chart, right? Because then every 4 hours you can take a look at it, and you can see here we had a nice long trigger. Now following the rules with the Laguerre. See, interesting enough here, right? So the Laguerre triggered, but you had a red dot. So I usually pass on those, okay? Now here we have the Laguerre trigger again, and you got the yellow or the green dot, and you're off to the races. Okay, so again, some of the easier ways to enter a trade when it's an aggressive, solid trend is to go in off a smaller time frame, like a 4-hour. If you're swing trading, I do with the daily chart, but then when I want to get in more aggressively, I like that 4-hour chart. Very effective in trends, right? All right, let me go put that back to the daily. So one question is, hey, Kirby, are those lines a divergent lines? Can you show how a hog chart like climbing? Are you talking about the orange lines here, Kirby, the divergence? If so, yeah, I'll show you that. Okay. So I can bring up like lean hogs. Okay, and this is the daily chart. I'm actually looking to do a long play on lean hogs. But anyway, let's say we went to a 4-hour chart. Let's see if there's any divergence. You had divergence right here, came down a tad and higher. Had divergence right here at 9 o'clock on what Thursday, last Wednesday or whatever, and it diverted. Okay, so it's very strong signals, and you can use different time frames to, depending on what you're doing. Here's a 15-minute. Let's see what we got here. I don't see any recent divergence on the 15-minute. Let me try a 5-minute. Here's one right here, which is a bullish divergence, right? And you're at the basically caught the bottom there, and then headed higher. So yeah, divergence is very, very powerful. And now that it's programmable, it's fantastic to have on your charts. Even if you don't trade divergence, it's good to know if you're probably close to a top or a bottom, or is it time to exit the trade? I just had a webinar on that. If you go to my YouTube channel, we posted it last night or this morning, one of the two, where I go over divergence, the entire webinar. Okay. Okay, so Bitcoin. So again, how do you know when to go back into a trade, right? We had this retracement back to the 20 period, and now we got green Hockenaccis. Okay. My only concern on this right now is what? Anybody have any idea? Looking at this chart, forget there's no seasonal on this one, right? Anybody have any idea what my concern could be? Laguerre, yeah, right. It's still pointing down. I'd like to see this start curving up. Okay, so for example, I did a trade on Riot, and as you can see here, why I took it, right? We had a green Hockenacci. I want to catch this ride up, and I went in half size and just blow it up, because if it does retrace more, I want to get going back in with some more. But you can see nice uptrend, retracement to the 20 period. Right now, in this one, we're getting the Laguerre curving up, and we got green Hockenacci. Okay, I mean, the blockchains, to me, they're going to go much higher. So I did a couple trades, one publicly and then one private further out, as a more of a leap play to try to catch a longer term ride. Okay. Yes, you're right, Al. Good job. So, again, knowing that though, you can analyze that and say, do I want to wait, or, is it okay to get in a little bit early there based on what you're seeing? Okay. Interesting enough, today, Riot it closed yesterday here. So it's actually up for the day, right? But since it gapped up, it's actually come down, but the Hockenacci is still green. Okay. So I still love this opportunity, to that upside. All right, so some of our favorites, Apple, right? So again, had a trigger on here, and I didn't do this one, and I didn't do it publicly or privately because it was tempting, right? Because we had a Laguerre trigger here, and again, this could still be a nice trade, even though today's red. But what I didn't like about this recently, we've had this down move, and typically Apple doesn't do that. Okay, so I thought there was more risk. So what I'm looking at doing is see if we can come back down some more and then give me a second trigger. I want to see a higher low. Then I'll go in half size until Apple kind of resumes its normalcy. Okay. We all know Apple's going higher. It's just catching it at the right point, right? Tesla. Pretty crazy move here, right? But anyway, so Tesla is one of those trades where the trigger just kind of consolidating now. So when we get that next green dot opportunity, if you can afford it, it could be a good play for you, right? We know we're going to hit these 900s again here, sooner than later, more than likely, right? So being patient here, right, has allowed you to wait and get in much cheaper than if you went up here. You're went up here, okay? Nice divergence trigger here to the short side, telling you we're probably getting close to a top. We don't know how far it's going to go down at that point. It happened to make a pretty nice fall because we also know seasonality tells us we usually go down until mid-March or so as an average, right? As an average. Facebook, again, it looks messy. This is a messy chart on Facebook. I haven't traded Facebook in a while. That's why. Let's talk metals a little bit. So gold. So again, gold typically now falls until mid-March here. And so this is going to work out nice, right? Because basically the more this falls, it's going to give us an opportunity to buy gold as a longer term trade. Maybe if we get in as an option play on like GLD or something, let me bring up GLD. Right, there's many ways to trade gold, or maybe Nugget. I like Nugget as well. Okay, once we get that move back up, you can do some damage to make some money, right? So we're just waiting at this point, unless you shorted gold. We're just waiting at this point for it to declare a bottom and then look to enter into a trade. Okay, it's actually been following things overall. Let's go with GLD here. We got some potential divergence coming in here on GLD, which is very, very interesting here with this play coming to the long side. Okay, so if and when I do take a GLD trade, what I'll be looking at doing is going in half size initially because price has been weaker than it traditionally is, right? And again, what a lot of people are telling me, and I don't have any proof on any of this, it's because they're putting money into Bitcoin and so forth, cryptos instead. I think that's potentially nonsense. I think there's plenty of money out there on the sidelines that people can put wherever they want. Right now, crypto is just not only the cool thing, it's going to be a good long-term investment, in my opinion. So I don't know if that plays a role or not, but regardless, we're not going to just enter long, right? We're going to follow our rules to look to do that. Yeah, I can look at the Russell. What time frame? I'll have the daily up, and so it's been very strong as well. Like more with the Dow, right? The Russell 2000 been more with the Dow. Been respecting that 20 period there. The range has been a little bit smaller, but I think it'll go at this point, consolidate before it goes higher. You know, if we get a pullback to that 50 and then we get a new trigger long, it'll be a better entry. But yeah, so let's take a look at some smaller time frames then. 5-minute chart today. There's a really nice divergence trade you can see here. So on the 5-minute chart at 10:15, we got a trigger long, right? This is a bit of a bullish divergence. Now, again, I don't usually go in right at that signal. I would wait for the Laguerre to come back up, or if it's already up, basically look for your green dot, okay? And you would have a nice little 5-minute trade there, just on divergence itself, okay? Divergence is, it's like a hidden gem because most people have read about it. Here's another one to the short side, right? And again, it's not always picking that exact top, right? That's why, to me, if you just wait, in this case, you were lucky enough again because you got to wait for that Laguerre to trigger short right here. And then if you took it short right here, depending on how your risk was here, you made a nice move, or or maybe in your 5-minute you got stopped out and then you went back in on the next red dot and made your money. It just depends on how you traded it. But divergence is phenomenal. And now that we can see it on our charts, it's much easier than having to kind of do it yourself, right? All right, the euro. Let me go back to the daily chart. Okay, so the euro here, let me clear this old stuff out. Yeah, we're getting close here, I think, to come lower, right? From left to right, we're going to head lower until the middle of May. So, this combo short here was a pretty good opportunity. And I didn't take the euro because to me, it's been consolidating a little bit more than I like to see. Okay. But what's going on here with my ADX? Let me see if I was doing something with that. Show plot. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. I was playing around with some stuff and I think oh, that's right. I took it off for a minute. Okay. 1 second. Sorry to waste your time here. For some reason it's not plotting for me here. I'm missing something, but I won't spend too much time on that right now. Okay, we'll fix that later. Oh, here it is. Let's move over there. That's what it was. Love it and hate it, right? Okay. Okay, so on the euro, anyways, it's been consolidating. The moving averages are on top of each other. It's not, it just wasn't something I was that excited about. Okay. Yeah, Kirby. Toss has free trials. You can get a paper trade for the rest of your life with no charge. I think recently they made a change where if you fund it for like even, it used to be free, but now if you fund it live for even less than $100 or something, they don't charge you for data. So, you get, what a lot of traders do is they'll use Thinkorswim on their charts, for execution or, for charting. And then for execution, they'll use a different broker. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Let me bring up AMC. I had a couple emails on AMC, my thoughts. So, again, this is a crazy volatile stock right now to trade, first of all, right? So if you are trading something like this, protect yourself at all times. But you had the retrigger long. You know, it's still a heavily shorted stock right now. So nothing would surprise me on this if we have another move up on AMC higher, you know, up to this test these 20s because of the short float that's still out there. I actually took a trade on AMC, but I'm out already. I wasn't trying to hit that home run. I just wanted a decent return and got out. But you know, be careful with that. Just like GameStop, right? You can see here we had a combo trade here, and you know, are we going to the short float is still about 30%. So it's still pretty significant. So nothing would surprise me if we get another panic move up when people are covering their shorts at some point. But there's so much manipulation going on with this stock right now. I've stayed away from it. Okay. Yeah, absolutely, Kirby. And it's not, once you get to know Thinkorswim, it's not hard. Okay, so the VIX, right? So we had the increase in the VIX, and now we're starting to head possibly back down here. So it's been really following the normality of everything, right? We typically are topping on the VIX in another week or so. Again, remember, this is a 10-year average though. So it doesn't mean we're going to pick the exact day or week all the time, right? It's just telling you big picture. We have a spike, and maybe the spike is still coming before we then head lower on that. And then NVIDIA, and that's another nice divergence signal we got there, short. Again, I didn't take that short, even though that's typically in line with the seasonal as well. I don't like to short stocks that are as good as NVIDIA. I'd rather wait for the pullbacks and go long, okay, personally. But it also looks a mess right now, the chart, right? I mean, lots of consolidation. Then we had to move up and move down, back to this consolidation. ADX is back at 20. So, you know, maybe we're going to break out of this when we get that next trigger over here, long. You know, I'll look to take that. All right, let's see if I got everything else I wanted to talk about there. Bonds. Let's talk about bonds. So remember, I keep saying this week in and week out because I want you to understand, first of all, there is nothing stronger than a trend. Okay. So when you have a massive downtrend here, there's always risk going against it. Okay. And it doesn't mean you can't, because again, sometimes there's some good risk reward trades, right? Well, I'm going to risk a little bit to potentially get a reversal. Okay. But my point is, look at this seasonal. The white dotted line it should have been heading higher, right? It's been heading much lower. It's much, much weaker right now, bonds, than what it typically is. So again, I'm not looking at the next trigger long to go long, folks. Sometimes you got to look at the bigger picture on these swing trades. Okay. Now, if we get a retracement back, in all honesty, and we get another turn down, like if it bounces up to that 50 and then turns back down, because it's been so weak, you can go back with that trend short even. Okay. But I'm not looking to go long on bonds right now. I'm just not. Even if I miss out on that, you know, if you tried here, you probably lost money. You tried here, you probably lost money. It's just a trend that at some point it'll reverse, but until it does, let's not be the ones, you know, draining our bank accounts. Okay. Okay, let's see. Hello, Dr. G. Okay, look at Domino's. Yeah. Absolutely. So let me bring up Domino's. So this is a trade, made lots of money on it last year, lost money on it this year. Okay. And so when earnings hit the day after, then when I said, okay, we didn't get the gap up that I was hoping for at that point, I exited this trade. But anyway, so the question from Olga is, now what do you think? So, you know, I do think Domino's is going to go higher for obvious reasons. Look at that beautiful seasonal, right? But again, from left to right, it's been supposedly it should have been going higher, and it hasn't been. So it has to prove itself again to me. And what do I mean by that? When we get another trigger long, I will ignore that trigger on dominoes. Okay, so let's say we fast forward here till March 18th, and we get a trigger long. Okay, I'm skipping it. Yes, it may work, but it may not. What I'm waiting for though is to go up, come back down and make that higher low, so that when I get another trigger, a second trigger, I now have a real change in direction, a new trend. Okay, then it's a higher probability trade. Okay, or you could say, you know what, dominoes is just not acting normal right now, right? So I'm just going to skip it for a while. Okay, you can always do that as well. Okay, one of the two things, because what's interesting is if you look at some of the competition, like Papa John's, okay, up until this recent fall, it's been much stronger, right? And then they had some earnings as well that wasn't favorable. So I thought pizza would be doing really well during the pandemic, but maybe you're all taking carry out from somewhere else now, right? I don't know what the hell you're all doing, but you're not buying pizza. I don't know what's going on, but so anyway, this would be maybe a better opportunity, is my point, than dominoes, is to trade PZZA, because one, is cheaper, but two, it has a nice seasonal as well, and it's been a little bit stronger. Does that make sense? So again, look at PZZA, and then look at dominoes, and you see how dominoes is much weaker. Okay, so maybe picking that stronger one would have a better opportunity for you to make money. Okay. AMD, let's take a look. So I love AMD. It's a solid stock fundamentally, not that I trade fundamentals really. Again, price should have been going up, price has been going down, right? So there's more risk right now on taking a long play on AMD. Okay, but historically, look at that. Okay, and that's 10 years of data saying we typically go much higher. And plus, again, AMD is a really solid company. So yes, I think absolutely. So if you're already in this trade, as an example, absolutely it can turn around. What I'd be looking to do if I wasn't in a trade yet on AMD, when I got a trigger, I actually like a longer play out. Okay, because if you go to trade here and you go into, let's say, January, okay, look at all the volume in January, right? You can do longer plays on some of these, okay? That way, you give yourself some time to really make some really nice investments in those, okay? And let's look at NVAX. So it came up very, very fast, and now it's coming back down, which can happen, okay? Earnings didn't do a whole lot. Let's see, was that 3-1? Yeah, so earnings it didn't make a gap either way too much. So what I think will happen on something like on Novax is when we get that trigger long, okay, then it'll make its move back up. Okay, so again, a longer term play on that would be good, or you could do a play until summer, August or so, or you could play it longer, depending on what the option chain looks like and so forth on that. Yep. Okay, so I have a question. I don't think I've answered it on the ES. Let me go back to the ES. And 5-minute chart. I'm going to go to the 5-minute, maybe. And it is 5-minute trading. Would your charts help on this? Well, I like to, when I'm day trading, I'm bringing up my paper trade account to show you something here. Let me hide this for right now. So on the ES here, this is the 5-minute chart and then the 1-minute chart. Okay, Philip. So I have a little bit more sophisticated day trading thing that I use. Okay, but yeah, so it's going to keep you into these trades. Okay, it's going to keep you longer into some of these opportunities. This long play up here today, and then we had it back to the short side. Absolutely. One of the things in the room today that was really cool, people got to see, was that when the market opened up where this purple is, okay, we talked about the high probability between this dotted blue line and the dotted red is the gap for the overnight session. We knew we had over an 80% probability of filling that gap throughout some point during the day. Usually it's, in the morning, and it did right away here before it turned back over. That's a high probability opportunity there though. Okay, so yeah, the Laguerre, for example, was actually originally designed for day trading. Okay, oops, sorry about that. Okay, let me bring up real quickly here some of the weeklies here. Yeah, one thing on leaps. So when you're looking at leaps too, because I like to have a few of my portfolio all the time, just be patient with the enters. Don't worry about, am I going to miss out? Because it's really nice to get into a leap when you're obviously making money right away versus getting in aggressive. Or more importantly, if you get in a little bit aggressive, go in half of the size, okay? Because then you can always add in on the next trigger. Okay, so obviously you can see there's a lot of triggers here in general. The light green is more, a little bit more aggressive. And then today the market's heading down, so some of those are going to be probably false. Well, let's take a look at some of these. Let me sort by SIG here. Now I'm going to look for green with greens. Okay, like ATVI. Okay, so look at this one, right? ATVI, Activision Blizzard, and this is one I actually did do a leap on. Okay, but this is the bottom here, right here, and I'm going off a trigger now with a really good seasonal coming up. Okay, what is the risk? It's been following it decent. Earnings is over now though, and so at this point, I'm looking to make a longer term play, make some money on Activision. Another risk factor on this is that regardless, you're fighting this downtrend, right? My favorite position would be when you get a retracement in an uptrend. So there's two things going against me potentially, but again, I did a longer term play and I got in pretty cheap. What else we got here? So Dish, right? Here's Dish where we got a trigger back here. We see that we typically start heading higher now. And so, can Dish again, retest those highs at 35. EW, that's an ugly chart. Let me just see if I can find something that I like here right now. So Netflix is interesting, right? So we had a nice trigger back here, made a move. Now it's heading back lower, like a lot of the Nasdaq stocks are right now, right? We have divergence that triggered and a Laguerre trigger, okay? I haven't taken Netflix yet because I want to see it make a higher low before I get back into it, because we all know it's going to go higher probably, and it's probably going to touch these highs by the end of the year, if not sooner, right? But it's a matter of getting in and not getting in at $500 when you can get in, a much better opportunity for yourself. So I'm just waiting here. Okay, but we all know, again, Netflix has a great seasonal play. So if you got in off of this trigger here, yeah, I think you're fine. But I like divergence here as well. And obviously when the markets take off, Netflix is going to be one of the first ones to make some big moves. Okay, I'm just trying to be a little bit more patient on this particular stock, being the how expensive it is, to try to fine tune my entry with a higher low is my goal. Okay, so get in at a higher low. OLED as well, Universal Display Corp. That's looking pretty good here, other than you're fighting those massive trends down. So, one thing that you can always do as a number one on your list, follow the trends first. You're going to get plenty of opportunities. And if you follow the trends, you're going to be the most successful than trying to pick tops and bottoms on something that hasn't. Okay. Acadia Pharmaceutical had a nice trigger back here with divergence, okay, on that 5-minute. Let me grab the daily chart again. Okay, but look at Acadia, right? So it's just basically been right here, right at this 46 level. So if we get a trigger there and you like that risk reward opportunity, okay, Acadia is another solid stock, okay? Yeah, ARWR, let's take a look. Yeah, I like ARWR, nice uptrend. When this triggers and I catch this opportunity, absolutely, I'll look at taking that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I had Netflix on the wrong time frame. Let me bring it back up for you. Okay, so right here, again, it's having a look at those wicks here, and then they come back up, right? But so Netflix again is one of those stocks where it's all about the entry, because Netflix is going higher, right? And at this point, you want to wait until you're in confluence with seasonality. And one way to do that, folks, is when you look at the indexes, okay? The futures continuous contracts. When you get a new trigger, okay, on, let's say with the Nasdaq, since Netflix is with the Nasdaq, when you get a new trigger here on the futures, and then you get a new trigger on Netflix, okay, that's one way of timing that entry. Okay, so if you get a trigger on Netflix, but the Nasdaq is still heading down, more than likely that's going to be a false signal on Netflix. Okay, so again, I don't like to overthink things that's a little bit more advanced, but it does work that way 9 times out of 10. Okay. Okay, so again, big picture, what am I thinking? Still flip of the coin. I do believe when we start turning around for good, though, it's going to go fast to the upside. But until that happens, it's a flip of the coin. I'm being really conservative. My favorite plays right now are actually in the cryptos. Some of these opportunities that I've shown you about, like Riot or Mara, is another one that I really like. MARA, Marathon Digital Holdings. And they're following as Bitcoin goes, they go. And this one's a little bit cheaper. It's got tons of volume to trade options on it. So keep an eye on those if you like the crypto markets. Other than that, folks, have a good rest of the week. Thanks, Kirby. And reach out if you have any questions at all, folks. But just, take it slow, because we are going to get a nice turnaround, and then we can go back to buying. But until then, it's better to keep if you're not going to short a lot, right? It's better to keep your money in your pocket so that you have money when it's ready to take from the markets again. So other than that, folks, have a great rest of the day and good luck.